Okay, part one of MySQL database connections and retrieving the data from there. First thing you've got to look at is you're going to have your database designed in MySQL connection. I personally use Workbench. Remember, you're not creating models, or you can, but then you've got to sync them, and it can create difficulties. You go to your local instance, which is your one on your own server. If you have other MySQL connections, you can connect to those. And then inside there you will create your database by going create schema over here on the current server, and then you would see your database created here. I'm going to go through the database example of Frankenstein, just the random one with a monster table, and inside the monster table you'll see there a whole bunch of monsters that we've created. When you take a look through from there, if we go into our NetBeans, you'll see that on our services, you'll see on our databases, MySQL, you'll see there Frankenstein that is there. I've already connected to this, and I've got that here. That's my Frankenstein database connection over there. So just to go through that quickly again, you design your database in Workbench or wherever you want. You can even design it in here if I find this more tricky. You then will connect to your MySQL server port. You would then connect to the database you want to. It will then come up at the bottom here, which means you've got a connection to that database. Let me just tell these guys to shut it, and then I'll get back. Okay, so once you've now got the connection up, you've now going to get it created. Now you see I also created a monster class. Now this is the exact same structure as the table in the database. It's got the 3 fields that it has, and it's just got your setters, getters, and your constructors, and the default 2 strings, so nothing fancy. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to create a working class, because remember we always try to separate our user interface from our working. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to create a Java class, and it's going to be called working. And inside, I shouldn't have created it in the working class, but anyway, refactor. Class. So now in my working class, I'm going to create an array of my monsters. So all I do is monsters array. I'm going to create it of size 500. You can choose any random number really. Technically it might be better to work with a list, but at a school level we use arrays. And we're going to create a counter to keep track of number of monsters. So I'm just actually going to call it monsters, and we're going to start that at 0. And then I'm going to create my default constructor, and inside my default constructor I would end up having to now I want to populate this monsters with the monsters. So now to do this, we want to get from our database, so we need to work with database connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class, and this class is purely, it's my storage manager class. I'm going to call it storage manager. Okay, and then from there, I never code this from the beginning anyway, so what I suggest you guys do is you copy and paste code that is available to you on your guys' U drive, which under code segments it's called dbmanager.java. You can then just copy and paste the code from there. If you called your class differently like I did with mine, there will be some issues, as well as the fact that the imports aren't there. You can go control spacebar and fix all the imports that are there, or you can just copy the imports that are in that class over there. So I'm just going to copy and paste the imports. Now the reason why this has got an error is because I called my class a different name. Okay, and then this here is now the database it's going to connect to. But now this one is a database called DBD database. It doesn't make much sense, but yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify that to be the database we're currently working with, which is the Frankenstein database, and you'll see it's available here. So if I go to properties, you'll see the URL over here. I can just copy that URL over there into this code here, and then now it would be directing it to that database. You'll see here now it's to the Frankenstein database. So now this has got the connection to that database. So in my working, I can also create an instance of my DB manager. So I can go, my storage manager. So storage manager sman equals new, and this will create the connection. So again, you guys don't have to know much about this, but literally it opens a connection to the database. I can then run queries, updates, etc, etc, etc. I'm only going to run through the query during this tutorial. I'll run through the updates and etc through other tutorials of this type. So now that I've got this, the reason why it's underlined red is because we haven't handled an exception. I'm not going to handle it here either. I'm just going to literally throw it on. So I'm going to throw on the exception. So the exception that has been as not being handled is being thrown on. So the next step that we've got to do is I've got someone looking very lost. Give me a second. Okay, so literally we've created an instance of our storage manager and we threw the SQL exception. Now the next step that we've got to do is we actually want to initialize our array with data from here. So we're going to have to run a work with this database and run a query. So first thing I'm going to do is just create MySQL string. So string SQL is equal to select star from and you'll just run from your database. My database name table is called monster. So monster, and then you'll just go create a result set. You'll need to import this. Make sure you choose the result set java.sql, and I'm going to call mine result is equal to sman, so my storage manager dot query, and then we send through the SQL. So this will execute this SQL statement. Again, I just copied and pasted the code from the storage manager. I just send through the SQL to query. I get the result set. Then what I can do is while result dot next, which is just saying is there another record in the table, so it'll continue looping until there is no more records in the table. And in which case what we would want to do is we would want to get the name of the monster, sorry, ID first. So let's go int ID is equal to result dot get string, sorry, get int, my bad, being an idiot. Get int, and it's from the database table called ID monster. So it is called ID monster, so we can just refer to what the field name is, and the same thing for the monster name. So then we go then we can get the monster name, which was all small, and what's the underscore name, make sure of your naming with it, and so forth. So I'm just going to finish this without having to go through the video, and then I'll show you. Okay, so what we've done currently is I just literally got the other result sets, monster name and level, and then I created my add monster, which you would do to add to the array. And then now we can literally just go add monster, and that'll add it to the array. So simple as that. We copy and paste from the DB manager, which is available to you guys on your U drive, into storage manager, which will have your query, etc, etc, etc. You then have your add monster, your general query structures, and we read from the result set. From there, what we're going to do is we go public void, sorry, we're going to do our toString. So I'm just going to also insert toString. I'm going to get rid of that statement because I don't like it, and we're going to loop through our array. So while it's less than num. You two do realize you're going to have this refrigerator argument on video. Okay. Okay, so just okay, so all I'm doing is I'm looping through the array of things. I'm going to pause it again in the video, just finish it off. Okay, so this will literally just loop through our array of monsters and add them to a single string. I should also include a backslash in at the end to have an enter. So all I've done, read from the database and added it into there. Inside my UE, you'll now see I've got this code here. As soon as I boot up, so after I've initialized all my GUI elements, I actually want to run this. So I'm going to actually create an instance of my working here. So I'm going to call working work, shouldn't have a dot at the end, is equal to new working, which I actually should not have initialized it in here. I should have declared it here and initialized it here. And then you'll see now, remember my working class throws an SQL exception, so I need to, oops, sorry, 2 equals. Well, you'll see an error comes up because it has an unreported exception. Here I'm going to catch it, and when I catch the exception, I would then want to print it to the user. Error into the programmer. Plus, okay. Okay. Now, what we should do here is, now that it's been initialized and we've got our working, we want to actually set our, so what we're displaying to be our work.toString, which should return us all the different instances of the monsters. So let's check what happens. Play. Yes, I want this to be my main running area. Ooh, errors, SQL reception, exception, no suitable driver found. Okay, let me fix this error, then I'll tell you what the error is. Yeah, I think the issue is that it's not picking up the driver. So what I've done is, the driver that you should have is you go properties, which I've also shared on the U drive, and I will share on Moodle, or the place where this video is shared. I'll share that driver, because it's not able to pick up the driver which can communicate with the MySQL. So you go to libraries here and you add your JAR folder. When you add the JAR folder, you'll see here's the connector here. There is, in my case, I have a D drive plugins. For your guys, it'll be on your U drive, etc. But you're looking for this MySQL connector, and you open that and you go OK. Now that will have added the MySQL database connector driver to your project, and then you can run go play, and then you'll see now all the monsters are available on here. So that's it in a nutshell. Basically all you do is, okay, the first step is you should have actually gone properties and added into your libraries your MySQL connector. You've then gone and copied and pasted the storage manager, which is found in DB manager. So you'll see the text file that's available on the Moodle share, which is actually a Google Drive share, which points to Google Drive share anyway. And then you'll see that here you copied and pasted this, converted this host sequence to what you've got over here under services, and you right click properties in the URL here. You then would create an instance of your storage manager. You would then create your SQL statement, run the query, which returns the result set. You then get each individual entry out and add them onto to an array. From there you can work from the array. I hope this helps. Step 1. It's probably not the greatest of videos, but so be it.